Yeah, so maybe you learn to respect yourself and protect yourself if you knew a little bit more about yourself. So, I'm going to read to you from a website called satrakshiта.com, and it's on Kundalini and the 7 bodies. Yes, you have 7 bodies, but you don't know that you have them. You don't feel them, and so you haven't been using them. So maybe if you could get in touch with yourself, you could contact the rest of your bodies that makes you whole. And once you're whole, you can now think for yourselves. Yeah, you can let go of faith. You can let go of the idea that somebody's coming to save you. You will be saving yourself or not. So let me get busy because it's kind of long. So it's about the 2 states of Kundalini, the psychic state and the spiritual state. In order for you to understand this structure of various subtle bodies, you must be fully elaborated upon. So the individual can be divided into 7 bodies. The first body is the physical body, which we all know. The second is the etheric body. Okay? The second is the etheric body, and the third, which is beyond this second, is the astral body. The fourth, which is beyond the astral body, is the mental or psychic body. And the fifth, which is beyond the mental or psychic body, is the spiritual body. So the sixth, which is beyond the spiritual body, is called the cosmic body. Then the seventh and the last is the Nirvana Sharir. Okay? Sharir. Or the Nirvanic body. The bodiless body. So a little more information about these 7 bodies will make it possible for you to understand the Kundalini fully. And I'm reading this because I read it and it resonated. And although I didn't agree with everything that was said, I was able to pull out some pretty good gems that was easily researchable, and I'm satisfied that I'd rather have this information than not. So the number 1, the physical body. In the first 7 years of life, the Stal Sharir, the physical body alone, is formed. So the other bodies are in seed form. They have a potential for growth, but they lie dormant in the beginning of life. So the first 7 years are years of limitation. There is no growth of intellect, emotion, or desire during these years. Only the physical body develops within this period. Some people never grow beyond 7 years. They stagnate at this stage and are no more than animals. Animals develop only in the physical body. The other bodies remain untouched within them. So number 2, the etheric body. In the next 7 years, that is from 7 years to 14 years old, the Brahmashara, or the etheric body, develops. These 7 years are years of emotional growth of the individual. This is why sexual maturity, which is the most intense form of emotion, is reached at the age of 14. Now, some people stagnate at this stage. Their physical bodies grow, but they are stuck with the first two bodies. Okay? So, number 3 is the astral body. In the third 7-year period between the ages of 14 and 21, the Sukshma Sharir, or the astral body, develops. In the second body, emotion is developed. In the third body, reasoning, thinking, and intellect are developed. So this is why no court of law holds a child responsible for his actions up to the age of 7, because the child has only the physical body. So we treat the child the same way as we would treat an animal. We cannot hold him responsible. Even if a child commits a crime, it is assumed that he has committed it under the guidance of someone, that the real criminal is someone else. So after the development of the second body, a person reaches adulthood. But this is the adulthood of sex. Nature's work is complete with this development, and this is why nature gives its full cooperation up to this stage. But at this stage, man is not man in the full sense of the word. The third body, where reason, intellect, and the thinking power develop, is an outcome of education, civilization, and culture. This is why the right to vote is granted to a person when he is 21 years of age. Though this is prevalent all over the world, some countries are debating whether to allow an 18-year-old the right to vote. This is natural because as man is becoming more and more evolved, the usual span of 7 years for the growth of each body is becoming less and less. All over the world, girls reach puberty at the age of 13 to 14 years. Since the last 30 years, the age for this is becoming less and less. Even a girl of 11 reaches puberty. The lowering of the voting age to 18 is an indication that now man completes the work of 21 years in 18 years. Normally, however, 21 years are required for the growth of the third body, and the majority of people do not develop further than this. Their growth stops short with the development of the third body, and there's no further development for the rest of their lives. Number 4 is the mental body, which those who stop at their third body don't get to experience. So what I call the psyche is the fourth body, the Manas Sharir. This body has its own wonderful experiences. Now, a person whose intellect is not developed may not be able to take interest in or enjoy mathematics, for instance. Mathematics has its own charm, and only Einstein can be absorbed in it as a musician is in music, or a painter is in colors. Okay, so mathematics has its own charm, and only Einstein can be absorbed in it as a musician is in music, or a painter is in colors. I hope I just clarified that. So, for Einstein, mathematics was not work, but play. But the intellect must reach this peak of development in order to turn mathematics into play. So with each body that develops, infinite possibilities open before us. One whose etheric body does not develop, who stagnates after the first 7 years of development, does not have any interest in life beyond eating and drinking. So the cultures of those civilizations where the majority of people have developed only up to the first body revolve entirely around their taste buds. The civilization where the majority of people have got stuck at the second body will be sex centered. Their personalities, their literature, their music, their films and books, their poetry and paintings, even their house and vehicles will all be sex centered. All these things will be completely filled with sex, or with sexuality. So, in the civilization in which the third body develops fully, people will be intellectual and contemplative. Whenever the development of the third body becomes very important in a society or in a nation, many intellectual revolutions can take place. Okay? So in Bihar, the majority of people were of this caliber at the time of Buddha and Mahavira. Mahavira. Okay, so Mahavira. This is why 8 persons of the stature of Buddha and Mahavira were born in the small province of Bihar. Besides, there were thousands of others at the time who were endowed with genius. Such was the condition of Greece at the time of Socrates and Plato. Such was the condition of China at the time of Lo Tzu. So, what is even more wonderful to note is that the fact that all these luminous beings existed within a period of 500 years. Within those 500 years, the development of the third body in man reached its peak. Generally, man halts at the third body. The majority of people do not develop after 21 years. There are unusual experiences of the fourth body, which is hypnotism, telepathy, clairvoyance. All are all the potential of the fourth body. So persons can have contact with one another without hindrances from time or place. They can read the thoughts of another without asking or project thoughts into another. Without any external help, one can instill a seed of thought into another. A person can travel outside of his body. He can do astral projection and know himself apart from the physical body. So there are great possibilities in the fourth body, but we do not normally develop this body as there are many hazards as well as much deception. So as things begin to get more and more subtle, the possibilities of deception increase. Now, it is difficult to find out whether a man has actually stepped out of his body or not. He can dream that he stepped out of his body, and he can actually do so too. And in both the cases, there is no other witness than himself. So there is every possibility of deception. So the world that starts from the fourth body is subjective, whereas the world before that is objective. If I have a rupee in my hand, I can see it. You can see it. 50 others can also see it. This is a common reality in which we can all take part, and it can be investigated whether the rupee is or is not. But in the realm of my thoughts, you cannot be a partner, nor can I be a partner in the realm of your thoughts. From here, the personal world begins with all its hazards. None of our external rules of validity can be used here. So the real world of deception starts from the fourth body. All the deceptions of the preceding 3 can be seen though. Can be seen through. Okay, let me clarify that. All the deceptions of the preceding 3 bodies can be seen through. So the greatest danger is that it is not necessarily the case that the deceiver is aware of the fact that he is deceiving. he can deceive unknowingly himself as well as others. Things are so subtle, so rare and personal on this plane that one has no means to test the validity of his experiences. So he cannot tell whether he is imagining things or whether they are really happening to him. So we have always tried to save humanity from the fourth body. And those who made us of this body were always condemned and slandered. Those who made use of this body were condemned and slandered. And up to this day, that's happening. So hundreds of women were branded as witches and burnt in Europe because they used the faculties of the fourth body. Hundreds who practiced Tantra were killed in India because of the fourth body. They knew some secrets that seemed dangerous to human beings. They knew what was taking place in your mind. They knew where things were placed in your house without ever having stepped into it. So the realm of the fourth body was looked upon as black art all over the world, as one never knew what might happen. We've always tried our best to stop progress from going any further than the third body because the fourth has always seemed very dangerous. I gotta stop and think for a minute. Yeah, some of you know what I'm thinking by what I just read. Others just think I'm crazy. And some of you think both. But some of you know where I'm at mentally. So the experiences of the Kundalini on the fourth body can be psychic, but that does not make them false. There are authentic psychic states and false psychic states. When I say that Kundalini could be a mental experience, it does not necessarily mean that it is a false experience. Mental experiences can be false as well as authentic. You see a dream at night. Now this dream is a fact because it has happened. But on waking in the morning, you might recollect some dream that you did not actually dream. Yet you can insist that that is what you dreamed. Then this is false. A man might get up in the morning and say he never dreams. Many people believe that they do not dream. They do dream. All night long they dream. And this has been proved scientifically. But in the morning they assert they never dreamed. So what they say is absolutely false, though they are not aware of it. In fact, they do not remember the dreams. Quite the opposite also takes place. You remember dreams you never dreamed. This will also be false. Dreams are not false. They have their own reality, but dreams can be real as well as unreal. Real dreams are those which have been actually dreamed. The trouble also is that you cannot narrate your dream precisely upon waking. For this reason, in the old days, any man who would narrate his dream clearly and precisely was held in high esteem. It is very, very difficult to report a dream correctly. The sequence of the dream is one thing when you dream it and just the opposite when you remember it. It is like a film. When we see a film, the story unwinds from the beginning of the film. Similarly, the reel of the dream drama winds in one direction in sleep and begins to unwind in the opposite direction in the waking state. So we remember the last part of the dream first and go backwards in recollection. This is so true. This is so true, and it's explaining a lot about my dreams and why they're sometimes discombobulated. So um, this would be just like someone who tries to read a book from the wrong end. The reversed words would cause just such as a chaos. So to remember a dream and give a true representation of it is a great art. Generally, when we recall a dream, we recollect happenings we never dreamed of. We drop a good portion of the actual dream and later most of the rest. Dreams are a happening in the fourth body, and the fourth body has a great potential. Whatever cities are mentioned in yoga are attained in this bodies, cities, whatever. Yoga has incessantly warned the meditator not to go into them. The greatest danger is there of going astray. Even if you go into a psychic state, it has no spiritual value. So when I said that the Kundalini is psychic, what I meant was that it is actually a happening of the fourth body. This is why physiologists cannot discover the Kundalini within the human body. So it is only natural that they deny the existence of Kundalini and the chakras and call them imaginary. They are the happenings of the fourth body. The fourth body exists, but it is very subtle. It cannot come within our grasp. Only the physical body can be grasped. Yet there are corresponding points between the first body and the fourth body. If we were to place 7 sheets of paper, one on top of the other, prick a hole through them with a pen so that all the papers are pierced, then even if the hole disappears from the first sheet, it will still carry a mark that corresponds to the holes in the rest of the sheets. Then, although the first paper does not have the hole, it has the point which will correspond directly with the pinholes on the other sheets when it is placed upon them. So, the chakras, Kundalini, etc., do not belong to the first body as such, but there are corresponding points in the first body. So a physiologist is not wrong if he denies them. The chakras and the Kundalini are in other bodies, but points corresponding to them can be found on the physical body. So Kundalini is the happening of the fourth body, and it is psychic. And when I say that this psychic happening is of two kinds, one true and one false, then you will understand what I mean. It will be a false when it is a product of your imagination, because imagination is also a characteristic of the fourth body. Animals do not have the power of imagination, so they have very little memory of the past and no idea of future. Animals are free from anxiety, as anxiety is always of the future. Animals see many deaths taking place, but they never imagine that they can die also. Therefore, they have no fear of death. Among men also, there are many who are not bothered by the fear of death. Such a man always associates death with others and not with himself. The reason is that the power of imagination in the fourth body has not developed fully enough to see into the future. This means that imagination can also be true or false. True imagination means that we are capable of seeing further ahead, that we can visualize that which has not yet come to pass. But to imagine that something will happen that cannot be, which does not exist, is false imagination. So when imagination is used in its right perspective, it becomes science. Science is primarily only imagination. So if I say that science is imagination and madness is also imagination, don't think they are one and the same. A madman imagines things which does not exist and which have no relationship with the physical world. The scientist also imagines. He imagines things which are directly related with the physical world, and if it does not seem so at first, there is a complete possibility of their being so in the future. About the possibilities of the fourth body, there is always a chance of going wrong. Then the false world begins. This is why it is best if we do not harbor any expectations before entering this body. So the fourth body is the psychic body. Now, for instance, if I want to go down to the ground floor of this house, I will have to look for a lift or a staircase in order to do so. But if I want to go down in my thoughts, there's no need for a lift or a staircase. I can sit right there and go down. The hazard of imagination and thoughts is that one thing has nothing except imagine or think, and so anyone can do it. Moreover, if anyone enters this realm with preconceived ideas and expectations, then he immediately goes down only into these, because then the mind will be only too willing to cooperate. It will say, you want to awaken the Kundalini? All right, it is rising, it has risen. Then you will begin to imagine Kundalini rising, and the mind will encourage you in this false feeling until ultimately you will feel that it is fully awakened and that the chakras are fully activated, but there is a way of testing the validity of it. And that is that with the opening of each chakra, there will be a distinct change in your personality. This change you cannot imagine or preconceive because this change takes place in the world of matter. So for instance, when the Kundalini awakens, you cannot take intoxicants. It is impossible. The mental body gets influenced by alcohol very quickly, as it is very delicate. This is why, and you would be surprised to know this, when a woman consumes alcohol, she becomes more dangerous than a man who does so. I can vouch for that. This is because her mental body is even more delicate and it gets affected so quickly that things get out of her control. This is why women have protected themselves from the hazard by certain rules in society. This is one place where women did not seek equality with men, although unfortunately of late she is trying to. The day she asserts her equality in this area and tries to outdo men in it, she will cause such harm to herself as has never been caused by any action of men. Yeah, I don't agree with that part. So, in the fourth body, the awakening of the Kundalini cannot be proved by your telling about the experience because, as I said before, you can falsely imagine the awakening and experiencing of the Kundalini also. It can only be judged by your physical traits. Okay, so it can only be judged by your physical traits. I done scrolled around. I hope I can find. Past that. Past that. Okay. So if you find that you have to repress the feeling of violence, then know that the Kundalini has not awakened. If after the eyes open you still feel your way about with a stick, then know that the eyes cannot see yet, no matter how much you claim otherwise, because you have not yet given up your stick. Whether an outsider can find out whether you can see or not is dependent on your actions. Your stick, your stumblings, and your unstable walk prove that the eyes have not yet opened. So there will be a radical change in your behavior with this awakening. And all the religious vows, like those of Mahabharata, nonviolence, not stealing, non-possession, celibacy, and full awareness, will become natural and easy for you. Then know that your experience is authentic. It is psychic, however, but authentic all the same. Now you can proceed further. You can proceed ahead if your path is authentic, but not otherwise. You cannot stay forever in the fourth body because it is not the goal. There are yet other bodies that have to be crossed. So, the spiritual body. Water. The Atma Sharir, the fifth body, which is called the spiritual body, is of great value. If growth in life continues in the proper manner, then by the age of 35, this body should be fully developed. But this is a faraway idea because even the fourth body is only developed in a very few people. This is why the soul and such things are only a topic of discussion for us. There is no content behind the word. When we say Atman, it is merely a word. There is nothing behind it. When we say wall, there is not only the word, but also the substance behind the word. We know that wall, we know what wall means, but there is no meaning behind the word Atman because we have no knowledge, no experience of the Atman. This is our fifth body, and only if the Kundalini awakens in the fourth body is interest possible into the fifth. Otherwise, we cannot enter. We are not aware of the fourth body, so the fifth also remains unknown. Very few people have discovered the fifth body. There are those whom we call spiritualists. These people take this to be the journey's end and declare, quote, to attain the Atman is to attain all, end quote. But the journey is not over yet. However, these people who stop at the fifth body deny God. They say there is no Brahman, there is no Para-Atman, just as he who stagnates on the first body would deny the existence of the Atman. Just as the materialist says, the body is everything. When the body dies, everything dies. So the spiritualist declares there is nothing beyond the Atman. The Atman is everything. It is the highest state of being, but this is only the fifth body. 6. The cosmic body. The sixth body is the Brahma Sharir, the cosmic body. When a person evolves beyond this Atman, when he is willing to lose it, he enters the sixth body. If mankind develops scientifically, the natural development of the sixth body would take place at the age of 42, and that of the Nirvana Sharir. The seventh body at the age of 49. The seventh body is the Nirvanic body, which is no body, which is a state of bodilessness, an incorporeal state. So this is the ultimate state where only the void remains, not even the Brahman, the cosmic reality, but only the emptiness. Nothing has remained. Everything has disappeared. So when anyone asked Buddha what happens there, he replied, the flame dies out. Then what happens? He would be asked again. When the flame is lost, you do not ask, where has it gone? Where is the flame now? It is lost. And that is all. So the word nirvana implies the extinction of the flame. Therefore, Buddha said nirvana takes place. The state of moksha is experienced in the fifth body. The limitations of the first four bodies are transcended and the soul becomes totally free. So, liberation is the experience of the fifth body. Heaven and hell pertain to the fourth body, and he who stops here will experience them. For those who stop at the first, second, or third body, life between birth and death becomes everything. There is no life beyond death for them. Okay? So if a person goes beyond into the fourth body, after his life, he experiences heaven and hell where there are infinite possibilities of happiness and misery. So, number 7, the Nirvanic body. If he reaches up to the fifth body, there is the door of liberation. And if he reaches up to the sixth, there is the possibility of the state of God realization. Then there's no question of liberation or no liberation. He becomes one with that which is. The declaration of Aham Brahmasmi, which is translates to I am God, and it is of this plane. But there's yet one step more, which is the last jump, where there is no Aham, where I told you thou art totally non-existent, where there is simply nothing, where there is total and absolute void. That is nirvana.